And welcome back to the Hot Lap and welcome to our Saudi Grand Prix preview. Yeah, we're going to look at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. We're going to try and predict that podium. We'll be having a look at the track. What tyres are they going? I was going to say going to be wearing, but what tyres are the cars going to be wearing at the very least to have on? All that and more, including the current headlines going into the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Yes, more Red Bull talk as well. I mean, we're going to have talk about Saudi's new track that has just recently been announced. It looks amazing. I mean, if you think Cota's first corner is going to be interesting, this could be more. Also, big changes for Alpine. Key people are leaving. Quite the crisis at Alpine. Probably not in the same vein as Red Bull, but still not looking good. Very much a rebuilding process, I think, needs to go on at Alpine, and Gasly on his and Alpine's chances going into the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix and beyond. Also, Ferrari updates for Saudi. Rumour has it they've got a new wing. We'll get into that as well. Also, McLaren looking a lot more upbeat for Saudi. They had a very average, I think, Bahrain Grand Prix, but they kind of predicted that. If you listen to Lando Norris, Bahrain not quite their track, looking a lot happier going into the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend. Also, we're asking, is this the end for Red Bull? Interesting article on therace.com, and we'll definitely be getting into that, all this Red Bull controversy. Yep, it's still continuing. Talking about controversy, more controversy for the FIA. Mohammed bin Sulayem, a report on BBC, talking about, well, the Las Vegas Grand Prix and the fact that he kind of didn't want it to go ahead. Yeah, a bit controversial. We'll get into that towards the end. But let's look at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And more importantly, let's look at their brand new track. And it says here from motorsport.com, absolutely game-changing is their new track, potentially pushing the boundaries of motorsport. Yet the first corner, it apparently climbs 20 stories high. The main straight races alongside a roller coaster, and the layout combines a street and circuit sections that can be extended into what's going to be the world's longest racetrack. But think about that, the first corner climbing 20 stories high. I mean, that dwarfs, for example, that fantastically awesome climb for the Circuit of the Americas in Texas, which I think is one of the best first corners in Formula One now. Now, it's the Speed Park track in Kia City. I probably got that wrong. It's been designed by legendary F1 designer, Herman Tilke. Yes, he designed Malaysia and he designed Turkey, but he also designed a few, I don't know, I'm not going to name them, but there we go. Fingers crossed this is a good one. And the team behind the venue also work with the developers of the all-new city to seamlessly integrate it with the urban development, and its under development is aiming to host a wide range of top-level motorsports in the future. The managing director said it will bring us a step closer to positioning the city at the centre of global motorsport, and he explained the track will be ready to host the globally renowned racing events that appeal to a wide variety of audiences, overlooked by the, I'm going to pronounce that wrong, Twaiki Mountains, and it's going to be surrounded by adrenaline-fueled attractions, experiences and events, providing a fully immersive experience that transcends beyond racing. And the speed park is going to be seamlessly blended into its environment. I mean, it's going to look really, really interesting. There's like renders of the city and parts of the track. The viewing experience is going to be pretty unique too, as conventional grandstands will be ditched in favour of elevated terraces. The height allows the viewing areas to be placed far closer to the track, creating multiple vantage points on the edge of the racing action and delivering a new type of immersive experience. I mean, all this looks really, really interesting. There were rumours that Saudi Arabia might want 2 races on the calendar. Keep this one. I don't know if I like that idea. I'm always for one country, one track. Yes, I know we have him, and I know we have 3 tracks in America. America is massive, though, let's be fair. Maybe just take Miami away. I think most people, if they took Miami away and kept Las Vegas and Kota, I think most people will be happy, won't they? But anyway, quite excited about the new Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. But, let's get into our preview then for what's going to be, hopefully, a really, really interesting Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Fingers crossed, I absolutely cannot wait. What do you reckon? What do you reckon the form is? We had quite a boring Bahrain Grand Prix. Let's be honest, it wasn't great, was it? The Bahrain Grand Prix. So let's hope that the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is going to be better than the Bahrain Grand Prix. We're going to have our fingers crossed. So let's get into a few facts about that track, shall we? There we go. This is hopefully going to be from Pirelli. Yep, there it is. So as you can see here, they're going to be using the C2, C3 and C4 tyres. Last year I think it was mainly the medium and hard tyres that a lot of the teams used. Now it's 50 laps. It's quite a long track at 6.174 kilometers. So it's a race distance of 308.450 kilometers. The lap record, Lewis Hamilton from 2021. Yeah, that Grand Prix, arguably I think the most exciting Grand Prix that's happened there, but maybe for the wrong reasons. He did a 130.734. Now, in terms of traction, out of 5, they've given it a 2. The asphalt grip is a 4 out of 5. The abrasion, not as bad as Bahrain. That's going to be quite significant. The circuit there is not as abrasive as it was in Bahrain. So what could be interesting is that going to lessen Red Bull's no doubt advantage? They've given it a 2. The track evolution, like most street tracks, for example, Monaco, Singapore, and even like Canada and Melbourne, which are semi-street tracks, the track evolution is quite high. They've given it a 4 out of 5. Tyre stress is 3, kind of average. Braking 2, lateral G's a 3, and downforce 2, because it is a really fast street track. You can make an argument for, I think it's one of the fastest street tracks. So some of those turns are so quick, aren't they? So let's then have a look at this beautiful track via F1 2023. I mean, here we go. I mean, as you can see here, we're coming into that last corner. Do you remember that last corner, 2021? Verstappen didn't do too great, didn't he? He's on an absolutely fantastic lap. And it all went a bit Pete Tong, let's say, didn't it? It all went a bit wrong. But this is obviously where this is going to be the main passing zone. Coming into this first corner, under DRS, a big braking zone here, and then the left and the right. And you quite often see, if we just reverse it a tiny bit, you quite often see people going off, as you can see to, just above my head there. As we go around the track, you see a lot of people going off. You see people and then coming back on, which has created kind of some controversy, because, hey, you can go off. If there's a wall there, it is not going to happen. And then you've got really fast sweeping turns here. I mean, a couple of light braking zones, but not really too much passing until possibly that next DRS zone. I mean, it's just absolutely, it's just so fast. It is like a roller coaster ride of a street track. And like Monaco, you make one mistake and that's going to pretty much be it, isn't it? And as you can see here, massively quick. There we go, big braking zone. You might be able to pass into that corner. I don't really think, though, it's going to happen, if I'm honest. But put that pedal to the metal as we're going around again. Once again, so quick. This corner, yeah, as you can see, that me driving this completely messed up there. Some of the corners come up so quick. I do expect yellow flags here. I do expect a safety car at this race, because it's, as you can see, street circuit. It's more than likely gonna happen. So now, if I'm absolutely correct, we're not too far from one of the other DRS zones, which is a potential passing place as well. Yeah, I think we're coming into, this is the final corner here where you can pass, but quite often we've seen cars coming into that final corner and kind of like pressing the brakes, slowing down, and letting the other guy pass the DRS zone. So it'll be interesting to see coming into the weekend whether that DRS zone has indeed changed. And here we go into the final straight again, and that's a lap of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I don't know it from the top of my head too much. I don't know off by heart like I do Bahrain and Australia. I always need to get to grips with it again. So kind of limited talking about that track, rambling a bit maybe. I do apologise. But let's get into our podium predictions for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Who is going to win the race? Well, surprise, none other than this guy, Max Verstappen. We're predicting is going to be first. Why? That Red Bull looked absolutely ominous at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Max Verstappen with that Red Bull, we've always said, best driver car combination of last season, of 2022, and probably this season, despite all this controversy going around at the moment. But Max Verstappen, looking pretty much unbeatable. The only thing I think that could stop him winning is a mistake, reliability, or, as we mentioned here, safety cars. Safety cars could turn could turn someone else's frown upside down, because that could be a bit of an issue, especially towards the end of the race. A safety car at the wrong moment could turn Red Bull's race, do an absolute 180. But who's going to finish? Who's going to finish second? Well, it's going to be this guy, Charles Leclerc. We predict he's going to finish second. He was really slow in Bahrain compared to his teammate Sainz, which was a bit of a shocker. But now we've learned that his brakes were having an issue at I think potentially cost him 0.4 a lap. And yeah, I think Leclerc is going to do good. He's got something to prove now. He wants to prove, no, Carlos Sainz, I am better than you. After Carlos Sainz's very, let's say, exciting pass at the Bahrain Grand Prix, it was really the only decent action we had, wasn't it? So in third, though, I think it's going to be this guy here, Lewis Hamilton, like Charles Leclerc. He's got something to prove, and his car was a lot slower than we thought as well at the Saudi event. The only thing is, I don't think Lewis is as comfortable maybe with qualifying. He did admit in Bahrain that the setup that he had was for the race and not qualifying, but he felt he went too far. But we never got to see, both him and George Russell, we never got to see that speed, did we, in the Bahrain Grand Prix, because of that overheating issues, which we have been informed by Mercedes that they have overcome. So they've overcome their heating issues, and I think if they've done that, they can potentially find half a second on the lap. I do think all the teams, particularly Ferrari, Mercedes and McLaren, are going to be closer to the Red Bull team, and I also think McLaren are going to be snapping at their wheels. But this prediction could completely change. Who race to races, and this, whatever they do on the setup, for example, if anyone gets it wrong. The weather temperature as well, and also that safety car factor is a massive exclamation mark. So let's get into the other stories, shall we? Bear with me. We've already spoken about Saudi's brilliant new track. As you can see here, that is the Pirelli. But let's get into the fact that Alpine. What is going on with Alpine? They've made team changes after what's been described as a disappointing Grand Prix, and Matt Harmon and Dirk de Beer resign. I mean, that's a massive exclamation mark. That's a massive lack of faith, let's say, with Alpine at the moment, but they're like, see you later. So Alpine have made big changes to their technical structure after they locked out the back row of the grid in Bahrain before Esteban Ocon finished 17th and Pierre Gasly finished 18th. Not very good, was it? I mean, they qualified at the back as well. It was hard to watch, wasn't it? I mean, this is the team, in the Schumacher days, they won. This is the team that brought Alonso to 2 world championships. They won in Hungary in 2021. Okay, they were a bit lucky, but they still had to beat all the other cars. They had to beat an Aston Martin, piloted by Sebastian Vettel. And it says here, Alpine have made a series of changes following what is a difficult Grand Prix, where Pierre Gasly and Ocon very much fell off the pace. Now, technical director Matt Harmon, he's the head of aerodynamics, and Dirk de Beer, they both resigned from their positions after Ocon finished 17th and Gasly 18th in the F1 season opener. And Joe Bernal is going to be their technical director of engineering, it seems, and Dave Wheater is now the technical director of aerodynamics. And Kieran Pilbeam has become technical director of performance. Now, Alpine's power unit team is led by Eric Maiganen, I probably got that name wrong, who continues to work on their 2026 power units. The team also confirmed the start of 10 years of Chief Operating Officers John Woods at the British base in Enstone, and Audrey Vastrow, I've probably got that wrong, at Viri to continue, or Viri, I think it's pronounced, I'm not too sure, but they're going to continue development of the factories behind their Formula One projects. They've said, we've decided to make these organisational changes as we can clearly see that we are not, amen, where we want nor need to be in terms of performance and level, and it's time to take another step in terms of organisation and people, said team principal Bruno Famin. I mean, he's got... when we look back now, was getting rid of Otmar the beginning of the end for Alpine when you think about that far back at that Belgian Grand Prix? And then Alan Permain is left, who's now working for RB. Was it? I mean, they're talking about their new structures. They kind of just need a complete reset, I feel, at this point. And Renault, who own Alpine, need to... It feels like they're not taking it seriously, if I'm honest. Kind of like how a lot of people felt Gene Haas was with Alpine. They were just there to be in Formula One because they can say, hey, we're in F1. And probably, I really don't think, not good enough. But Pierre Gasly, this is from Formula1.com, he's not expecting any magic tricks for Saudi after what was a disappointing Bahrain Grand Prix. And he's admitted that the Alpine car didn't have any more in it at the Bahrain Grand Prix, as he finished 18th and his teammate 17th. As we know, it's been a really difficult start for them for the 24 season, and with people leaving, it's not good at all. I mean, absolutely. Let's see if we can get a quote from Mr. Gasly. He said, "We knew it would be tough to battle. It was not our day. On top of that," said Gasly, "I had an amazing start, but then I got into the mess with Lance Stroll spinning at that first corner in Bahrain, kind of like everyone bunching into turn one, so didn't benefit from a great start." And he went on to say, "After that, the car felt like we maximised everything out of it. We are struggling with the pit stops at the moment. We know it is an area we need to improve. It cost me around 10 seconds today. We are working on it. The guys are working on it. Today would not have put us in the points, but we know it's an area we have to make improvements over the next few weeks." Absolutely, they do. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they qualified on the back row again, which is really, really sad, isn't it? But there we go. Having said that, well, there we go. I had the thing spooled up, but it's now not working. This is from Ferrari introducing a new rear wing in Jeddah to improve efficiency. However, Formula Uno does not want me to look at that story. Or the McLaren one. What is going on? Okay. This is not good, is it? I mean, I normally record these live to goawaytales.com. Well, let's get into the fact that Red Bull are potentially having Red Bull. Is it the end for Red Bull? So what would and it says here, what would a post-Christian Horner Red Bull Formula One team look like? What would be the impact of Max Verstappen leaving the team to drive for a rival? If it came to a choice, who is more important to Red Bull, Horner or Verstappen? And that's very much the question a lot of people have been having going into the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix with all this controversy. People thought Horner was going to step down, but obviously, once again, innocent and proven guilty. He was acquitted of all that, well, let's say controversial messages, etc. Then we had that WhatsApp leak, but to be fair, that WhatsApp leak has not been 100% confirmed as being fact. But then also, he hasn't denied it. But we have to say it's not been confirmed that was the evidence yet. And it says here, taking that last question about Horner or Verstappen, who's more important, it depends on if we're talking short or long term. And it says Verstappen would almost certainly carry on dominating races for the team for the next year or two, even if Horner was absent. But, and the big question is after that. Now, the structure which provides those cars and the team which runs them is not as effective as it is by accident. Key recruitment and investment choices, it says, firm direction and leadership are needed to fully exploit the fuel of money on which it turns at the front. And it says a team's rudderless, no matter how well funded, think of Toyota, would gradually lose momentum necessary to provide cars. They're saying even if you have a Max Verstappen. And it says if Horner were to leave, the challenge of replacing him is that he has grown with the team. He's been there since 2005. I mean, that was we had Stewart, and then we had Jaguar, and then Red Bull bought them at the end of 2004. And his vision is stitched into the team's very structure as it has expanded. I mean, there's a fairly young Christian Horner there. Now, the Milton Keynes base is now a multi-million-pound behemoth, and it's got its own industrial estate and incorporates Red Bull powertrains as well. And Horner's job is no longer that of running a couple of hundred employees. He's responsible, it says, for a couple of thousand employees and investments worth millions of pounds. He's effectively become a highly successful executive while continuing the role as team boss. He's the face of Red Bull Racing. You see him appear on Sky a lot, and his personality has given the place its tone. And now unstitching all that and replacing him is, it says here, just isn't feasible. Despite its size, Red Bull Racing remains a fully focused freeing race team. It's very much separate from the main Red Bull company, which a lot of people have argued is one thing that the Austrian side of Red Bull are like, no, we want to do something about that. So we want it to be closer. Now, the late Red Bull Corona Dietrich gave Horner the freedom to structure and run it his own way, and that's been a crucial component, it says, in making an attractive place to work. That's why Adrian Newey has been there for so long and been so happy. I mean, he left Williams because he wasn't happy. One of the reasons was the way he wanted more of an input, for example, in what drivers they're going to hire, and he kind of didn't. And at McLaren, he was initially going to Jaguar, wasn't it? I think 2002 possibly, and then that got kiboshed by Ron Dennis. Adrian Newey then backtracked, and him and Ron kind of had a falling out about this restructuring of that technical department, and he ended up going to Red Bull after Christian Horner and David Coulthard, I think, ended up speaking to him. So with the Austrian billionaires passing in late 22, there was always going to be question around whether the team, it says, could retain this powerful combination of simple but well funded. Now, racing teams and corporations do not operate to that same set of imperatives. As we know, Red Bull has been so successful partly because of its independence from that corporate big company, from the corporate, the Red Bull. Where, for example, when you see Ferrari, it's really, really political and it's really, really hard, and people get the blame a lot. There used to be a lot of blame culture at Ferrari, and as you can see, if you've been an F1 fan for a while, Ferrari is very different to Red Bull in the way they operate. Mercedes achieved its success by having a 1/3 stake in the team, which carries its name, but leaving the running to a racing person. Now, currently, we've got the sporting director, who's Jonathan Wheatley. This guy here, pictured above, he could be a safe pair of hands, but taking on all of Horner's role, it said, would not be a fair ask and outside his area of expertise, but he could run the team. The business side of the operation would need to be filled by someone of that world, the race is suggesting, and it would seem likely that the Austrian corporate parent company, Red Bull, would be proactive in providing someone to fill that role. And it carries on saying the racing arm would be less independent from the corporation, and that could be a bad thing. And all this has an impact on the quality of personnel who will be attracted to a longer term and potentially upon the future of those already there. I mean, there's been rumours that Adrian Newey could walk. If you listen to what Gerhard Berger tweeted out not long ago, he said that the plan is Horner stage, Verstappen, Marco, Andretti go. We don't know that, but it's going to be interesting. And as we know, Verstappen has been contracted there until 2028. But as we know, rumours are circulating about this possible move to Mercedes as early as next year to be Lewis Hamilton's replacement. As we know, Lewis going to Ferrari in 2025. This could well be simply a ploy, it says, but by whoever is pushing for Horner's removal to force someone in Red Bull GmbH, which is the head, to take action or risk losing Verstappen. The Red Bull Verstappen marriage, it says, has never actually been as close as might have been imagined. It's not been as intimate, for example, at Schumacher at Ferrari, where the joints between the interest of the team and the driver were never once apparent, or even Hamilton and Mercedes. And it says here, right from the start, Jos, yes, Verstappen's father, used the interest of Red Bull and Mercedes as bargaining leverage. Red Bull was fortunate enough to secure Max's services. They could do. Mercedes wanted him, but they couldn't put him in a race seat. They had Hamilton and Rosberg there. Now, this power dynamic between the team and driver has always been unusually skewed towards the driver, it says in this case. Without either Horner or Verstappen, Red Bull Racing would take an enormous hit. I mean, you got Perez in the other seat. Having said that, Perez would have won the championship last year without Verstappen. He was good enough. He scored enough points. That car was amazing. And it says here, but what would a Horner-led but Verstappen-less Red Bull look like? If the core of technical people were kept in place, it would remain formidable, it says, obviously. But replacing Verstappen like for like is going to be impossible. And it says, what seems certain now is Red Bull Racing, as was with the Horner-led team and Verstappen working in unison to crush the opposition, is no more. It can be expected to dominate for a time regardless, but longer term it's difficult to see this as anything more than the beginning of the end of its dominance. So I guess if you're not a Red Bull fan, you might be thinking, yes, finally. But then, as you know, when Red Bull stopped dominating in 2013, it was Mercedes for quite a while. And before that, it was Ferrari, really, wasn't it? And then a mixture of McLaren and Ferrari. So I don't know what's going to happen. What I'm going to try and do now though is see if I can get Formula Uno up without we still have that tails.com. What is going on? Go away. Discover your dog's unique recipe. No thanks. Okay, we got all things in need now. What? So yeah, obviously I need to get some. That's very, 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 very unfortunate. I do apologise. Let's see if we can find that again. McLaren looking better in Saudi. Here we go. McLaren looking better in Saudi. Let's get rid of that. So fingers crossed. Hopefully, I won't be using Formula Uno again. Hopefully that ends, shall we? So McLaren looking better in Saudi, and it says here after an in book now. No, we don't want to skip that ad. Oh my gosh, this is just going horrendously wrong, isn't it? Okay. After an incredible comeback in terms of performance last year, McLaren began 2024, it says, as that fourth team. And it says Lando Norris finished in P6 while Oscar Piastri crossed the line in P8. The MCL38 was only capable of competing with Mercedes. Red Bull and Ferrari were, in fact, too far ahead. Mercedes, as we know, had their own problems. Now, the MCL38 fighting a crippled Mercedes. So Lando Norris, as we know, managed to place his car between George Russell, with Oscar Piastri only behind George Russell. And he said, we are happy our pace was very similar to that of Mercedes. Sometimes, he says, I thought we could have challenged Ferrari too, but Carlos was too fast for us. However, it must be noted that Mercedes was limited with that cooling configuration. But he said, compared to last year, we improved by 1.8 seconds. And Andrea Stella is obviously very satisfied with us. And he said, this allowed us to keep pace with Aston Martin and Mercedes, but not Ferrari and especially Red Bull. Piastri was satisfied with the performance, but he said there are some things in the race that we needed to do a little better. I'm talking about strategy and pit stops. Strategically, Mr. Piastri fell victim, obviously, to the undercut. Strategically, we made a mistake with Oscar, it says. We should have called him earlier to avoid that Mercedes undercut. And they say it's something we certainly need to review, said Stella. But in what they're saying is the McLaren MCL38 should be better suited to Jeddah. And already in December, they're saying, I knew that we would not revolutionise the car and we would not suddenly be fast, where before we struggled compared to other competitors. And they're saying the MCL38, that's the new McLaren car, is a different car, many areas improved, but not enough to compete with the top three teams of Bahrain. And I think overall, in Bahrain, they're talking about they didn't have enough grip. But overall grip, which today wasn't enough to fight with those in front of us. We've made step forwards, and one to take Ferrari and Checo, the other to take to Max. And they say, fortunately, they are not two large steps, and this is an encouraging aspect that we carry from this weekend. Not only will Jeddah be a friendlier track to McLaren, they're predicting, but updates are on the way, and they're saying the situation should improve with some parts that we will see in the next races. However, at McLaren, we continue with the strategy of not wanting to force the updates too much. Now, obviously, we've got the budget cap. They're saying we cannot afford to use the track too much as a development tool, but at the same time we must sure to put the parts on that are going to essentially work 100%. And they're using even Aston Martin, the article says, is a cautionary tale of this. So fingers crossed for McLaren. They are, I think, potentially looking better, aren't they? So yes. Next up, then, we were with this disastrous Saudi Arabian Grand Prix preview, which I can only apologise for. We have we'll be looking at that Ferrari rear wing update. Maybe no, okay. Well, Ferrari do have a rear wing update. It's just that I can't really talk to you about it. So there we go. But let's hope that Ferrari have a much better race, shall we? We've been going on for half an hour, haven't we? It's absolutely crazy. So let's talk then. Last but not least, let's talk about the BBC the BBC article about Mohammed Ben Sulayem. So the FIA president allegedly told officials not to certify the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Massive exclamation mark there, let's be honest. So, and it says here from Andrew Benson again. He's been really helping us, hasn't he? The president of Formula One's governing body, Ben Sulayem, allegedly told officials not to certify the Las Vegas circuits for its race last year. Now, this claim came from the same whistleblower who accused Ben of allegedly telling officials to overturn a penalty at last year's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix in relation to Fernando Alonso. Now, the whistleblower says they were told on behest of the FIA president to find a way not to pass the circuit safe for racing. Now, the claim is in a report by the FIA's compliance officer to its ethics committee. The BBC Sport has seen this report, so yeah, we've got to take it as word. And an FIA spokesman said, from a sporting and safety perspective, the Las Vegas circuit approval followed FIA protocol in terms of inspection and certification. And they said, if you recall, there was a delay in the track being made available for inspection due to ongoing local organiser constructor works. The report quotes the whistleblower saying they were contacted by their manager, who on the behest of the FIA president instructed him to find concerns to prevent this FIA from certifying the circuit before the weekend of the race. Whoa! I mean, the compliance report quotes the whistleblower as saying the purpose was to find a fault with the track in order to withhold their licence. And it adds, asked to be more specific. The whistleblower said that issues on the circuit were meant to be artificially identified, regardless of their actual existence, with the ultimate goal of withholding their licence. And they were tasked, and the whistleblower said they tasked an official with performing this task and named 2 further officials who were in the room at the time. BBC Sport is not going to be identifying the people named. The report adds that the officials were unable to find any concerns with the circuit and therefore certified the circuit fit for the race. And BBC Sport has learned that officials present at the time have a different recollection from the whistleblower. So someone's lying. And it's not clear why Mohammed Ben Sulayem would wish for the FIA officials to refuse to certify the Las Vegas track. The race was a poster event, as we know, for F1 and commercial rights holder Liberty Media, and they had invested at least £500 million in the event in the hope of using it to promote the sport. And I think after that initial practice session, the Las Vegas Grand Prix was a successful race weekend. And it says the contract between the two parties sees the commercial rights holder pay the FIA around $40 million a year to perform its duties in legislating F1. And a spokesperson for F1 declined to comment. The FIA has later issued a statement confirming its compliance officer had received a report detailing potential allegations involving certain members of its governing bodies, and it added, the compliance department is assessing these concerns, as is common practice in these matters, to ensure that due process is meticulously followed. So, I mean, as we know, they had the drain issue, but still, I mean, whoa! If this is true, is the FIA boss going to have to leave? I mean, these are 2 things now. If found guilty of both, once again, innocent to proven guilty, is he going to leave? Who knows? Anyway, thank gosh, bit of a train wreck, but we made it to the end. Yes, Ferrari do have a new rear wing. We can't talk about it though. If you made it to the end, you really are one of the greatest F1 champions or equivalent ever, I think, to this show. We will be back soon. Thank you very much.